Hi, this is Willow. Welcome to my channel. I just came back from a weekend trip to Italy. I like to do this once in a while, traveling to other countries, just to enjoy some different vibes from my mundane routine. It didn't cost a lot since there were plenty of economical options for flights, accommodations, and so on. If I keep things frugal, as I usually do, it's pretty sustainably affordable. But now, everything costs significantly more. I started to be a lot more price sensitive than, let's say, a year ago, and I heard complaints about prices among my friends more and more often. I know there's a huge inflation going around. The money we have is worth less and less. But I also feel like we have to pay for a lot of things that we didn't have to while not getting more from it. My question is, are we becoming poorer? I'm not talking about the extreme cases, not the super rich, not the super poor. I'm talking about us, or people like me. By that I mean, it probably includes you as well. I feel our group of people is pretty underrepresented on the internet when it comes to money-related issues. Because this group of people still have an okay job, we can still make our ends meet in an okayish way, while there are people suffering from starvation. And we are traveling, we are buying new clothes and going to restaurants. What are we moaning about? Somehow it seems morally unacceptable for a working middle class to talk about money issue openly, while they are actually quite a vulnerable group of people in any economic transitions. I'm not here to complain, but to share some of my thoughts about the ongoing issue that have already affected a lot of us. Because I believe the YouTube algorithm is probably recommending my content to people similar to me. I mean, financial-wise, interest-wise, ideological-wise, similar people. So if I am feeling the impact of the emerging financial crisis, probably you do too. And I believe sharing our opinions can definitely provide some insight into the current situation, so we can react or come up with some coping mechanisms to, whatever is going on in this world. If I'm trolled for speaking my version of reality, I am going to take this video down. What can I do? My heart is fragile. Just kidding. Having a strong heart is a prerequisite if anyone wants to be a YouTuber or speak out. One of the purposes of my channel is to expose people and myself to more possibilities and versions of realities, thus promoting diversity in thinking. And since I've already put myself out here, I know some criticism and disapproval will be unavoidable. So, meaningful discussions are welcomed. But if you troll me, it only shows how stupid you are. First of all, the cost of traveling by air. There's no shortage of news and statistics showing the airfare soared in the summer of 2022 because of the higher demand, which I can understand, and because of the Russian-Ukraine conflict, which had driven up global oil prices. Apart from the pricier ticket, if you're traveling from Hungary, you have to pay an extra fee called the departure tax, which is introduced by the Hungarian government in this July in an attempt to tackle the financial difficulties triggered by the Ukrainian crisis. Well, this tax is actually imposed onto airlines, but we as passengers are the actual bearers of it anyways. The price you're obliged to pay for departure tax depends on your final destination. It is around €10 if your destination is within the EU and most geographical European countries. By that I mean it includes the Balkan countries and Moldova, Switzerland, Ukraine, and so on. And if you're flying anywhere else, this tax will be €25. A lot of people said that you have to pay this departure tax at the airport, in addition to the air ticket you already have paid for. But I haven't been asked to pay this, so I think it's already included in the price of the air ticket. I guess it's more acceptable this way. It's too harsh and too transparent to ask people to pay for this tax separately. And that's not all. I feel like in the very near future, we will have to pay for more and more shit that we didn't have to. Take this for example. From 2023, Anyone who wants to travel to Europe from a country which didn't previously require a visa will have to pay an extra fee. If you are an international student who wants to move around the EU, you will need to apply and get what's called the ETIAS approval. It stands for European Travel Information and Authorization System, an equivalent to the US electronic system for travel approval. It is expected to go into effect in 2023. Officially, the main goal of this approval is for Europe to identify possible threats or risks associated with travelers from another country in the Schengen zone. Although the authorities emphasized it is not a visa, for me it does sound like a mini visa. It's basically similar to a background check. Different from applying for a visa, this approval is easier to get and a lot cheaper than applying for a visa, for it costs only €7. But I think it would be quite annoying for some people because before you didn't need a visa to enter the EU, but now you have to apply for this approval and a lot of clicking and checking online and filling the forms and stuff. Yet another bureaucratic thing to do in life. I don't know if this is going to make the world better. Maybe. Well, I wouldn't say the introduction of this policy indicates the EU is poor, therefore wants to take money from people, but it definitely hints that the trust level between government and people is getting really low. Nowadays, it really feels like all the countries and all the regions are entering into this much more rigorous self-defensive mode, but that will be another topic. Besides traveling by air, road trip is becoming very expensive as well. I had to struggle whether to rent a car for this trip or not, but decided to go on with it anyways because this is what I'm used to do. But in the future, I think I am not going to rent a car for myself if it's a solo trip because it seems a bit too extravagant considering the skyrocketing fuel prices and the car hiring prices. In Europe, the average diesel price was €1.2 per litre in 2021, but now, in 2022, it rose to about €2. Very controversially, in where I live, the Hungarian government capped the diesel and petrol price at €1.2 per litre for cars with a Hungarian registration paper, whereas foreign cars are to pay the market price, which is about 60% higher. Many people complain that this practice is in breach of EU law. It is unfair and discriminatory to foreigners. I personally don't take any side on this, but I would like to clarify that this discount is not just for Hungarian citizens. It is for whoever with a car registered in Hungary, no matter what nationality the owner of the car is. By registering your car in Hungary, you are subject to pay the vehicle tax, environmental protection tax, and blah blah blah. So they are basically enjoying this discount as a taxpayer. Many people said for whoever didn't pay these taxes, there's no justification for them to claim this benefit. But here's the deal. The price cap had already caused losses for oil companies. Therefore, a lot of them have refused to import oil or distribute it onto the market. Quite a few times I ran into situations where the whole gas station is drained that I have to come back another day for refuel. Especially for premium diesel, the shortage had been perennial since the war began. Although it was never a desperate situation like the doomsdays, because I am usually able to refuel if I come back another time or go to other gas stations in remote areas. But in my many years living in Hungary, gas shortage as such had never happened. So we have all the markers indicating the price cap is not feasible in the long term, and sooner or later it's going to come to an end. Besides the more expensive fuel, the cost for hiring a car also soared. I remember renting a car in Italy for 3 days in the summer last year was about €120. However, now the price had literally doubled. According to The Guardian, the price rise are mainly caused by rental companies had sold off much of their vehicles during the pandemic because there were no one traveling. But now, with people taking holidays again, they have to rebuild their fleet. But a global shortage of semiconductor means they have to pay more for new cars, and inevitably these increases are being passed on to consumers in escalating prices. Again, trade wars, sanctions, countries against each other, these are definitely some of the contributory factors of the shortage of semiconductors and everything else.
That's good.
Okay, enough for taking road trips and aeroplanes. Those are not essential things in life, but food is. Food price is noticeably higher, even for those who never paid attention to this part of their expenses before. I'm not sure how it is in other countries, but in Hungary, food price rose about 30% in comparison to last year. It is quite a huge jump that is listed the third highest increase in the EU. Undoubtedly, it's because of the inflation and also because of limited transportation opportunities. For Hungary is a landlocked country without its own port. But the biggest culprit of the price jump, of course, is the Russian-Ukraine conflict. While I don't want to side with any part of this war, as I don't think I can understand what's behind it. I'm just a normal person, too dumb to understand complex shit-termed politics. I think this won't make me cancelled, right? Because I've seen very kind people being smashed for having different opinion about the war, or sometimes even not voicing in favor of the major opinion will get someone cancelled. And it's really scary to see how people treat others with different point of view. But that would be another topic. We're talking about price now. Anyways, back to food. While I will avoid debating the justification of the war, this war does have some far-reaching consequences globally. It affects our life and wallet in every ways, no matter where you live. Even in Singapore, which is quite far from where the conflict is taking place, is affected. Their iconic dish, chicken rice, is under threat of short supply, and it's becoming more expensive because a lot of nations have limited or banned food export to other countries as they try to protect domestic supplies. Russia and Ukraine used to be two major food and fertilizer exporters. The conflict not only disrupted their own exports, but also created a surge in export restrictions on agricultural commodities around the world. The logic is simple. When the big supermarket where I used to buy is not selling anymore, I better keep the food for myself and my family instead of selling it to others. India, Algeria, Egypt, and Indonesia and so many other countries are jumping onto the food export limit bandwagon. One thing for sure is that if the war continues, the food trade protectionism is definitely going to exacerbate, and further leading to more countries turn to food trade restrictions. It's kinda sad to see countries are shielding themselves up when just 4 years ago, I really feel like I was living in the super well-connected global village where we can buy stuff and travel internationally at the flick of a switch. Not only for food, the prices for essential stuff such as energy have soared so much as well. In where I live, the electricity price will be doubled from this August. And the gas price will be sevenfold for a lot of households, mine included. As far as I know, the heat wave had already killed people. It's reasonable to presume the cold wave will kill even more. I know there's some degree of increase in salary and pension, but the increase is far from proportionate to the price rise and the inflation. With people feeling pessimistic about the current situation, I think there will be fewer people traveling. In fact, that's what I'm planning to do too. Information online about this is quite mixed. Forbes is saying Europe travel is booming. Spain, for instance, registered over 8 million international arrivals in June 2022, a jump of 85% from 2019 level. On the other hand, other sites seem to convey the opposite idea. Financial Times reported as of May, total bookings for flights within Europe in July and August made were 17% behind 2019 levels. Well, one says tourism is having a good time, one says it's having a bad time. And I believe all the news outlets has their own agenda, therefore the message they are trying to hint or deliver are not 100% neutral. But based on my careless observation, which is even more unreliable, I do see fewer tourists on the European street. I am now in Ostuni, one of the very important touristic town in Italy. But somehow it feels quite empty, the whole place. Now is around 2 in the afternoon. All the restaurants are quite empty and there aren't that many people as Italy as how I remember. Actually everywhere is not as busy as before, it just feels like. I know the huge number of Asian visitors are absent because of travel restrictions, but even the number of Western visitors is visibly decreased. I know the street is quite bustling here because it's high season and it's Italy, but somehow I really feel like it was busier this time of the year before. Why is that? Are people still afraid of the virus, or they became poorer? Well, as for myself, I actually am thinking about cutting back costs on travel from now, given the precarious economic scene worldwide. I don't want to spend, I want to hoard. Human nature, right? Plus, it's what a good old-fashioned Chinese would do. And I don't think I'm alone. Quite a few of my friends have expressed their desire to travel, but decided to call it off because nowadays everything seems, not unaffordable, but unworthwhile. Before you accuse me of being uppity for feeling bad about trading down, I want you to understand, with people cutting costs, it creates a ripple effect. For example, I was so in love with a bag which I wouldn't hesitate to buy a year ago, but now with the idea of saving money for the unpredicted, I ditched the idea of spending for recreational stuffs. Basically, I'm consciously cutting costs not just on fashion items, but everything else, which is less of a priority. So economic transactions contributed by me is significantly reduced. I know no one cares, but so do a lot of people like me, therefore further slowing down the economic activity as a whole. Well, honestly, I know nothing about the economics, but it seems pretty straightforward. I might be wrong. And I'll probably go even further than executing austerity measures and look for some side hustle opportunities. My YouTube channel could be one, even though I haven't had any success from it so far, but I believe it does have some growth potential, and this is what I'm passionate about, so I'm gonna keep on developing it. At this point while making the video, I've already found myself a weekend part-time job, which explains my tardiness in uploading new videos. But I absolutely love this side job as much as my main job. Not only am I making some extra bucks with it, but more importantly, I have the opportunity to expose myself to a completely new field with a totally different group of people. Even though I'm lucky enough to love my jobs, I'm really feeling the current precarious economic and geopolitical situation is pushing people to work harder, for longer hours, and be constantly exhausted and worried. I'm not complaining because I still have a good life that I'm content with so far, but I'm definitely sensing this uncomfortable economic downfall the whole world is leaning onto. I hope I'm alone in this feeling, so let me know if anyone feels the same. Or is it just some Chinese thing, save money? Or maybe all these fusses are about me aging as an old Chinese woman. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Thank you for watching. Last but not least, English is not my native language, so I might be mispronouncing something or misuse some terminologies. I hope my message is not distorted. However, if that's inevitable, I reserve all the right for final explanation of whatever I have said. Sadly, this video didn't really offer any solution, but when you look at all the problems, it basically stems from one reason, which is we as human beings are not united enough, are not kind to each other enough. So if you don't have a better idea of how to cope with things, maybe we can start from being nicer to each other. Yeah, be kinder, have more integrity. So, yeah, let's start being nicer and then see how will the world be decades later. I don't know.